Well, thank you so very much for that, Alfie. I just have one more question for you before we close out. So, Alfie, thank you so very much for that, man. You played so beautifully today. And again, I want to say thank you so very much for allowing me into your space, man, so you can express some of your wonderful creativity. But I wanted to ask you, where do you think music is going in this post-pandemic world?
Well, hopefully it'll be going to a positive direction and place. So much toxicity that's in the environment and the universe. When I growing up, you know, we wouldn't dare. There was a record called "Work With Me, Annie." It came out in the '50s, and that song was so risque back that time. They played it on the radio and they snatched it right off the radio. So it was too risky, you know, risque. And then they had the sequel was a song called "Annie Had a Baby, Can't Work No More." I think it might have been Hank Ballard and
Exactly.
Midnighters, you know. But today it's like it's so toxic. People just outright saying all kind of foul and vulgar things. Hopefully, and I've been part of a group of pioneering folk musicians who have been around a long time, and we collaborate with younger folks as well to bring out some music as this medicine and to dispense some positive healing medicine music for the universe, for the animal kingdom, the mineral kingdom, plant kingdom, the elements, all of us, ourselves included, you know.
Yeah.
As therapy for and acknowledging and celebrating ourselves, people of African descent, and the entire world, you know, uplifting humanity, fallen humanity, and you know, putting our best feet forward for healing for us all.
You know, I wanted to ask you about, you know, playing in this environment. I know you remember the days of the loft jazz scene.
Yes.
And one of the things that was so amazing about that movement was that it involved a lot of experimental music.
Yes.
And do you subscribe to the notion that we can get back to that place where people can have venues to experiment new sounds and new way of expressing music? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, it hasn't dissipated. It's been going on, you know, throughout, you know. And I've had friends who, you know, like Shafi Hadi, bass player, he used to, you know, play up in the loft when Baraka and Archie Shep, they shared a loft back in the 60s, and it's a great, you know, that's one of the aspects of our many faceted experience in music, you know, and you know, and I love it when it's done like Coltrane. He and McCoy Tyner, they exhausted musical systems, according to my perspective, and when influenced by people like Albert Ayler and Cecil Taylor and Eric Dolphy and Archie Shep trained, and then he got into the so-called avant-garde.
Yeah.
But from a perspective of having learned volumes and volumes of music, he put in hours and hours and studies and studies and study with teachers, you know. Roland Wiggins, he studied with Dennis Sandoli in Philadelphia too. But some people, horn players I know, they just heard the avant-garde and they just would grab horns and go out and start squeaking and honking, but they never really studied music. I think there should be a high standard for that experimental, and it has a good solid foundation.
Yeah, there's two musicians I wanted to ask you about, and one of those musicians we just lost recently, and I was wondering if you remembered Sonny Simmons at all.
I didn't meet him, but I know he worked with Alvin and McCoy. He did stuff with, I think, Archie Shep. I worked with Shep.
Yeah. And I want you to talk about a little bit about John Gilmore.
Okay. I was blessed to work with John Gilmore. We had a band. It was John Gilmore, Eba, who played with Sun Ra, played trumpet and French horn and everything. Ron Everett on trumpet. Sonny Miller on tenor sax. John Gilmore on tenor. Shafi Hadi on bass. And his brother Hakeem on trumpet, and Lex Humphreys, the great Lex Humphreys, was on drums, and myself. The band was called The Same Cats. Matter of fact, we had, it was like a loft place that we used to shed and rehearse in West Philly, and so we gave a concert one time, and Ron Everett was telling the folks about the gig, and so the person said, "Ain't you the same cats that?" He said, "Yeah." So Ron kept the name, so we named us The Same Cats.
It's so good to be back in Philadelphia with you, to talk about your musical history, talk about John Coltrane. And again, man, I want to thank you so very much for your time.
It's my pleasure, and our prayers for the John Coltrane houses in Philadelphia and New York too, and wherever they are on the planet, to be able to unite and for the better, to keep the legacy of Coltrane flourishing and sustaining.
Thanks again, Alfie.